I had a message very recently, and a woman said she had been dancing, I think, for many years, and just kind of dropped it, just didn't do it anymore. And then she goes, "Oh wow, I saw this dancing video, so I'm going to start again. I'm starting again." But I get messages like that, and that is just amazing to me. I just love, because I'm not an authority. I don't have credentials. I'm not a trainer. I'm not a coach. I don't have a, medical or health background. I don't have any of that. I'm just there to say, you don't do what I do. I'm just showing that you don't have to limit yourself.
Hello, you are listening to the Late Bloomer Living podcast. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your host, and I'm so happy you're here. I created this podcast to give you inspiration and let you know you're not alone in feeling stuck in midlife. I also invite you to join the Age Agitators Club for women, where we come together monthly to hatch our plans for making waves as we age. Being part of this community for women will remind you on a regular basis that you're not too old, and it's never too late to do that thing you've been thinking about. You can find more information at latebloomerliving.com/community, and I hope to see you there. Hello, my friend. I'm so excited to be here today talking to Mimi Ison, who I have been following on Instagram for a while because, so let me just say this. I follow her because one of the first things that I saw her doing were these cute dances, and she just had this energy about her. And then the more I followed her, the more I realized it wasn't just dancing that she was talking about. It was this idea of the preconceived notions that we all have about what it means to be a certain age, what it means to look a certain age, that sort of thing. And then I find out she's been boxing, and she's a pro-age movement motivator and anti-ageism advocate. I love that combination. At 60, she's a health and fitness enthusiast who crushes age stereotypes on Instagram. And she also has a blog called Hey Middle Age, which you can find at heymiddleage.com. And her happy place, she says, is the boxing gym where she started training at age 50. 50 people, she started boxing at the age of 50. I find that to be completely inspiring. And so this is interesting. I did a little bit of research on Mimi, and I found an article somewhere, which I can't even credit right now, but she used to be a creative director for a jewelry company before starting her blog and Instagram account. And I don't think she stepped into doing all this with the intention of becoming an influencer, but she certainly is now. And I can't wait to talk about all the things. Mimi, thank you so much for being with me today.
I'm so happy to be here talking with you. Thank you for that really, really wonderful intro.
It's great to have you here. So what made you step into a boxing ring, or, to boxing at 50? What was that?
Oh, it was a complete fluke. Total
Really?
fluke. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was not looking for it at all. It's not something that was in my wheelhouse at all. So I had started adult ballet when I was 40, and I had just come off of 10 years of doing that, which I really loved, but it was getting hard on my feet and my knees. And so I was doing some kind of fitness class. It was at a gym close by, and I was going a couple times a week. And one night the class was canceled. The teacher had car trouble or something. So I go to the front desk to get a refund for the class, and the woman behind the counter said, "Oh, why don't you try the boxing class downstairs? Your first class is free." And I said, uh, "Excuse me? What are you talking? Like, no, that's not for me." And she goes, "Yeah, just try it." She goes, "You're here, you're already dressed. It's in 20 minutes. Why not?"
Bless her.
And
Amazing.
so I was inclined to just say no, because that was not, I had never done a burpee or a push-up. It was, calisthenic type things. I had seen that boxing, um, the gym down in the basement. And so I had seen it, and it's like just full of these people just sweat, like the mirrors were fogged up. It was just so sweaty, and it was just not for me. And I'm
Yeah,
not really
it's not
sure.
for me. I
It's
can
not
tell
for
you right
me.
now.
Yeah. So something in that moment, I do not know what made, I mean, I could say yes, no, pack up my bag and leave. And
Yeah.
something in that moment just made me say yes. And I'm not sure why, but it changed my life.
Wow.
So I said yes. And I knew when I said it, there was no way I could back out. I mean, I could, but I wasn't going to. So she said, go downstairs. You will see people there. They will help you. I thought, okay. So I nervously trudge down, the stairs. I go inside. I meet my first boxing friend that night and I say, hi, I'm brand new. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? And of course, everybody helps you, right? So everyone helps me. The coaches come in. It was the hardest physical thing I had ever done before. I mean, we're carrying sandbags and we're, hitting the bags and punching. I had never punched anything or anyone in my entire life. And so I was exhausted by the end of it. But what made me come back was there's a ring in that room, and there were women in that ring. And the women were punching and doing combos and hitting hard. And it looked like so much fun. It
Wow.
was amazing. And so I thought to myself, well, I'm going to come back and learn how to do that. And that's what made me come back. So I got a membership for the boxing. I was taking like the intro classes, learning technique. Again, hard, hard, hard every moment. I would be exhausted. I'd have to stop and go outside and get air, that kind of thing. And so I mean, I've stuck with it ever since. And I can honestly say it's changed my life.
Wow.
So I'm in year 11 now that
Wow.
I've done it consistently.
I have to tell you, I think I must have been in my 20s when I took a kickboxing class, thinking it would be fun. I don't know why I thought it was going to be fun.
Well,
And
okay.
I thought
So
I was gonna, I almost threw up, honestly, in my 20s. And I was, I was never like super athlete or anything like that, but I was in pretty good shape in my
right.
20s, And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I am never doing this ever again. I
Well,
was like
okay.
the hardest thing I've ever done.
I get it, but I have to say the first time's not going to be fun, but the 20th time might be fun.
Ah.
The 50th time might be fun. So I think there's a
Well,
I get a lot
okay,
I get
so if it wasn't fun the first time, but you
right.
saw women, okay, so
Yeah.
I get it. I get that you saw a sample of somebody
Yes.
that you could relate to that was in the ring doing the
Yeah.
thing, and that is what brought you back.
Yes, 100%. But that's how I get drawn to things. I have to see it,
Yeah,
right? And I can
yeah.
see it. That's the goal. I'm going to go there.
Just goes to show how
That's enough
important it
for
is
me.
to have examples in front of you,
Exactly.
things to live into because you see
Exactly.
it as possible, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
how did it change your life? Talk about that.
Well, it changed my life because of my first coach, Leon. And so what he taught me was like one of the mantras or rules or whatever you want to call it was to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And
That's my favorite mantra.
I
Oh,
I know, but it was not something that I ever it was never a goal of mine to be uncomfortable. Far from it. My goal was always to be as comfortable as possible. And so just the idea of that was, I mean, it sounds silly now, but it's just like really new for me. It
yeah.
really was. And so that has been able to carry over to all aspects of my life, whether it was, work or relationships or just, the crappy stuff that happens in life. We
Yeah.
know we have to get through it. And
Yeah.
on the other end, it's it usually makes you stronger. So
Yes. I will have to. So I'm
that's
going to
what I
tell on
learned.
myself. I'm going to tell on myself right now.
Mhm.
I said that that's my favorite thing is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it is in certain areas of my life.
Yeah,
I am learning I love the idea of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable
right,
but it's not because it's uncomfortable by nature. So of course it's,
right.
who loves it really? But I know what's possible on the other side of that. And
Mhm.
yet, here's the thing. I don't think I do it when it comes to exercise. I don't like to sweat.
Mhm.
So, I don't like to hurt. And so I find things to do. I do exercise and I move my
Yeah.
body all the time, but I tend to do like I walk, I do yoga.
Yeah.
I'm starting to try to do some weights and stuff like that,
Right.
but super calisthenic
It's
type stuff. It super like, that whole thing of like boxing. I
well,
just don't,
that
maybe I
no,
should
that
try it
all
just to see what it does
you
for
never
me.
know, but I mean, it all
Right?
makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Who wants to hurt? Nobody wants to hurt,
Right.
right? But I think that can be a reason why. Oh, I mean, I have friends who hate exercise. Like they just
Yes.
flat out hate it.
Yes, I do too.
So, a lot of times the advice is, well, find something that you like, find something that you love. Easier said than done. But I
Yes.
do think, if you have the opportunity to do some trial and error, yeah, I hope you find something because we are meant to move. We are meant to be using our bodies. We're not meant to be sitting all day long.
Yeah.
And so it's super important. I think strength training is very important at all ages, but in particular after age 40-ish, perhaps, we do begin to lose lean muscle mass. And you don't want that leading to sarcopenia, when you're older. So I think some kind of resistance or strength training, I think that's I mean, I'll say I think it's critical.
I do too.
And
I do too. And I've been trying
yeah.
to focus a lot on practical functional movement type
Hmm.
stuff, like really staying as flexible as I can, kind of moving in
Right.
weird ways when I stretch to do like,
Yeah.
because I've had frozen shoulder before, bursitis
Yeah,
or
I've had
whatever,
it too.
right?
I've had it too.
And
Hmm.
it's like I'm constantly working on my
Hmm.
shoulders, doing the push-ups because the
Right.
doctor was like, listen, you could end up going down the road of surgery or you can keep doing the physical therapy that
Right.
you've been shown and the push-ups and this is within
Right.
your
Well,
choice.
I think sometimes the recommendation is rest, don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, that's the right recommendation. That was
Right.
never the right recommendation for me anytime I had something go wrong. And I had frozen shoulder too. My inclination is to get back up as soon as possible and ease back into some kind of movement, some kind of strength, build back up.
I love that you said
Uh,
ease back in. I think that's
yeah. Oh,
huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to hurt yourself. Obviously, I mean, for me, that's a big priority. I never want to hurt myself. But I've had I've had back issues for many, many years, and I have found a way to manage that. But my feeling is I'm going to go over, under, around, or through to be able to keep doing what I want to do. So for me, the hard part, getting through the hard, I love having that challenge because at the end of it, it feels so great. There's nothing like it. Like I want it. I don't want it to be that easy. And I do all, I do things along the whole spectrum. I walk every day. I like to do, yoga once in a while and a good stretch and relax and all that. But I want to have the stuff that's going to push me because that's where it feels great at the end. That's just me. So
The
I don't
challenge
see
of
it
it.
at
That's
the
what
challenge
draws
of
you
it.
in. And I think,
I
yeah,
love the challenge of it.
it's so good to know that about yourself. I think that if you're somebody who loves the challenge of something, then that is like, okay, that could be the clue that's like, if you don't like this and you
Right,
don't like this, maybe that's not your way in. But
right,
I love the trial and error kind of message that you're
right.
giving, which is like, but you got to get
Well,
uncomfortable to
and the
even do that,
sweat
right?
too. And the
Yeah.
sweat too. So I have to say on Instagram, one of the most the question I get all the time is about skincare.
Uh-huh.
What do you do for your skincare? Blah, 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 blah. So
Really?
I've, you know,
You do have great
I
skin.
have, well, I've talked a little bit about it, not very much, but a little bit. But I do mention that, the time when my face looks the glowiest is right after a good sweat.
Oh, see,
So
not true for me. So
I don't
I've
see.
my skin turns like blotchy red and
Yeah.
mixed with white. Like I get like a horrible tomato red face when I exercise
I
really
get red
hard.
too. I get red too. But I mean, that to me, like, And I understand why, oh, you don't want to sweat. Like I don't want to be sweating right now or anything, but when
Right,
I'm in
right.
the gym and sweating, like to me, that feels really good.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love it. So, okay. So how did this turn into what you're doing now? How
Hmm.
did you become hey middle age on Instagram? Like how did that happen?
Well, I think I was around 55. It was a terrible year for me. I was really at my nadir that year. My mom had passed away. My
Mm,
daughter was graduating from high school. I was pretty burnt out from work, just kind of functioning on caffeine and sugar. I had not been really taking very good care of myself. And then I had kind of the double whammy of all the what I believe now were issues probably tied back to perimenopause and menopause,
mm,
which I didn't know. But
mm,
looking in a rear view mirror now, I'm thinking like some of these things I'm attributing to that. So I had frozen shoulder. I had a herniated disc, which is not menopause related, but so I had a lot of back issues and a lot of stress. And so anyway, I left my job when I was 55. I have a spouse, so I was, privileged enough to be able to do that.
mhm,
And and so I thought, well, I'm gonna kind of dive into what's going on at this age physically, all the changes, the reading glasses, the thinning hair. So I just kind of was diving in, kind of learning about some things. And I thought, well, my friends don't know about monovision, which is what I do to not wear reading glasses. I wear one contact lens, so I have a near vision in one eye and far vision in the other eye. It enables me to read my phone and all this. And it's like, well, my friends don't know about that. I'm going to write about it and I'll start a blog. And well, there's a trillion blogs out there, right? And so if you look up, if you search how to start a blog, you could probably start one in an afternoon. And mine took 2 years because of all the reasons. This is dumb. Who's going to want to look at this? Who am I to, put this information out there? But
I
so
had
it
the
took a
same
while
experience starting the
with the
podcast.
podcast. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly 2 years. And the whole
Yeah.
a lot of it was, oh, I'm too busy. And so
Yeah.
some of it was actually really like I could look to it and find really good, legitimate reasons why it wasn't time to do a podcast.
Hmm.
But when it really came right down to it, and I had my little
Yeah.
aha moment was when I realized, oh no, the thing that's really holding me back from doing it is me
Hmm.
feeling like an imposter.
Hmm.
And why
Hmm.
would it? And that when I realized that,
Yeah.
that's when I knew I had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did. So that's what I did.
Yay.
And I started that. And then you get all the social handles, right? With the same name.
Uh-huh.
So Instagram was one of them. And I didn't put anything on that account for about a year. And I'm not, again, sometimes these things happen. I don't really know why. But by the end of that year, when I had started the account, I thought, okay, let's just put some stuff out there. Let's just try it. Let's see what happens. So I did start to pull some things from the blog and some quotes and stuff like that. I was so concerned about what does the feed look like? How should I alternate images with graphics and, just which just seems so silly now, but I was, so concerned about those things. And then a few months in, I discovered remixes, which is where you can be side by side with another person's video. And I just started to do some of these dance remixes. And I don't know why. And it completely shocked me, but a couple of those went viral. And it was just a surprise. I opened up my phone and there's like just hundreds of notifications. 100. I'd never seen anything like it. I didn't understand what was happening. And so that happened maybe, oh, I don't know, 3 or 4 months in. And then it just got this surge of new followers. And then it happened again a couple months later, and it happened again a few months later. And so I just don't know. I just don't know why. I just don't know why or how. I couldn't tell anyone how to do.
Amazing.
It's kind of a big accident.
Yeah.
So, but what had happened because of that is, people started to reach out to me, and I started to get these opportunities to meet people like you and to be here on your podcast, and and just, getting really amazing messages from people telling me that, oh, I saw a video and so I started walking, or I started to pick up weights. One of
Wow.
my favorites is someone said, "Oh, I'm 48. I'm not afraid of getting old anymore." I had
That is
one.
like, that just
I
fills
mean,
my
yes,
heart. Oh
yes,
my
yes. It's
gosh.
the
That's
best.
amazing.
I had a message very recently, and a woman said she had been dancing, I think, for many years, and just kind of dropped it, just didn't do it anymore. And then she goes, "Oh, wow, I saw this dancing video, so I'm going to start again. I'm starting again." But I get messages like that, and that is just amazing to me. I just love, because I'm not an authority. I don't have credentials. I'm not a trainer. I'm not a coach.
Hmm.
I don't have a, medical or health background. I don't have any of that. I'm
Right.
just there to say, you, you don't do what I do. I'm just showing that you don't have to limit yourself. That's my main message. And there are some people out there who are absorbing it, who are liking it. And it's
Ah,
getting them to make a change or move forward or do something. And that's been the best.
that is incredible. You must have just, I can just imagine, occasionally somebody will tell me how the podcast has impacted them. And when that happens, I mean, it makes my day. It makes
Yeah,
my week, my month, my year. That
100%.
it is, that's so incredible. And so then, so you left your job and now, like, is this like a thing that you make money doing now? Is that, have you done
Um,
partnerships and branding
I
deals
have
and
done some.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I have done some.
And all
Honestly,
just kind of accidental in a way, right? It's so
yeah. I
wild.
mean, initially I just, when the numbers are rising, to me in some ways, well, that's just kind of a vanity metric in
Yeah.
some ways. It's as meaningful as you want it to be, I suppose.
Hmm.
Um, but in reality, it does get people to notice you, and it does get brands to reach out to you. And I have, I would say I say no to probably 98% of them, is
Yeah.
because they're just not a fit for me, or it's not, a product I use, or so I'm extremely particular about who I work with, and um, but along with that, I've just met a lot of really wonderful people too, and even
Yeah.
some in real life. And it's been a really, for me, it's been a really positive experience, because I know there's just a lot of nonsense out there in social media, but it's been positive for me. And I really have gotten so little in terms of negativity, in terms of negative comments.
I'm really glad to
It's
hear
been,
that
it's,
because
yeah, it's been
yeah, it can
really
be
like
brutal.
minuscule almost.
That's
And
amazing.
I'm not really sure, again, I'm not really sure why, but when I don't really tolerate that, I don't tolerate that kind of stuff. And I just try to keep it, um, you know, on the positive side.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
positive. I fill my Instagram feed with people that make me feel good,
Mm-hmm.
and you're one of those people. Like
Mm,
it's,
thank you. Yeah.
when I see certain people, I don't want to open up my
Yeah.
scroll and go, oh, or feel bad about
Right.
myself in some way in comparison to there's something about the way you do this that there's just a real, it comes from, it looks like it's coming from a place of joy for you,
Right. And I mean,
and that translates.
yes, and I don't want to spill into toxic positivity either,
Right.
because to me that's not realistic. And you know, I'm a I'm a practical person. I don't, kind of go in that kind of direction. I'm not super sunny all the time. I'm not, that's, to me, that's not reality.
Yeah.
So sometimes like if I'm deciding to put something up, I'll really scrutinize it and fret over it for a long time. And okay, how is this message going to land? Which you can't always know, but I want it to land in a certain way. Um, and so, yeah, sometimes some of them can really take a long time. Sometimes I'll have the video piece of it, but not have the caption piece of it, or I'll have the caption piece of it, and then it changes into something else and then changes into something else again and again. Sometimes I'll get an idea from seeing something else that's already out there or an audio that's interesting. So but that's kind of the creative part of it too, is all those pieces that come together.
Yeah. So do you enjoy the content creation part of what you're doing?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually fun. I do all of it by myself.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
but putting like all the pieces together, and it's like, okay, well, what do I want to say? What could be of value to somebody out there? And and then getting the feedback and kind of seeing, okay, well, what are people responding to? How are they
Yeah.
responding to it? And it's been
Do you
fun.
ever find yourself like for me, I do this because I'm constantly thinking about content and so I'm out and I'm living my
Mhm.
life and I'm thinking about, well, oh, should I talk about this? Should I talk? You know what I mean? And do you ever feel like is the line between your personal and your public gets a little blurred on?
Well, I think there's always that line there, and you just have to decide where you want that line to be.
Yeah.
So I don't get very personal, I guess. Like my family, I hardly post anything with my family. They're not interested
Hmm.
in being on there. So it's pretty rare that you'll see my family.
Yeah.
And but I'll just say I did an Instagram live yesterday, and we talked a lot about perimenopause and menopause, and we were talking about hormone therapy, and so that was kind of personal. We did a deep dive into that.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty personal
but
for sure.
but I did feel like that could possibly, help somebody out there, because there are so many questions around it and so much lack of information, I suppose. And
Yeah.
so I never give advice, but I will share my experience, and that could help somebody out there. So that was the reason I was willing to talk about that.
Yeah. What have you learned about yourself in going through this process? Like what is something that you know about yourself now that you didn't know when you started the blog?
That's a good question, but I would say for Instagram, well, I probably all of it is I'm prior to starting any of this, I'm a pretty private person. So but I think it's almost practicing yes to things. This has given me the practice to say yes to things,
Hmm.
because I'm a real overthinker, trying to be less of a perfectionist. And so I would just, overthink so much that it would just kind of, stop me from doing things that
Yeah.
could be really amazing. And so this, in a very small way, enables me to always say yes. Not only yes to opportunities and meeting people and being here in a pod with you, but also just saying yes to whether or not I share something or put something out there. Um, because sometimes I just, well, in 10 years, in a week, who's going to care? Like, I'm not going to care that this is here
Yeah.
if I look back years from now, or when I'm 80, who's going to care? I'm not going to care. So sometimes I just ask myself that question.
It's a
When
good
I'm
question to
80
ask
and
yourself. I
when I'm
love
80, am I
that.
going to care that this is out there? It's like, nope. Okay. Publish.
Yeah. I love that. I love that it's having you say yes more. That's very cool. Do you, so
Mhm.
on the other side of that, because when I hear that something when that you're saying yes more, has it also taught you to say no more? Like, is there a
I
flip
suppose
side to that?
so.
I mean, do you, because when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, right? How do you guard or put boundaries around what you say
Oh, well,
yes to?
that I think the no piece of it is just kind of, well, sometimes it's obvious. And when it's not, I think it's just kind of a gut feeling.
Yeah. Maybe that was
Be
always there for you to begin with.
right. Because
Right.
if you feel that if there's something, if you're resisting something, there's a reason why.
The gut check.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
Very
if you have to
important.
keep asking yourself, should I do this? I don't know if I should do this. Well, then you probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
If you keep asking yourself that.
Yeah. I'm going to change directions because a question just occurred to
Hmm.
me to ask you. And I feel like we may have talked about this before already anyway,
Hmm.
before when we had our first call. Have you ever felt like y your ideas about aging, or what it means to get older, has that ever held you back in any way?
Oh, I believed just ageism in general. Oh, I had all the beliefs.
Yeah.
I had all the beliefs that most people have. Yeah. I mean, I think it's baked in. We start to learn them when we're kids, when
Yeah.
we're looking at fairy tales with the wicked old witch and playing old maid and all of that. So uh the fear of getting older, yeah, of course. Of course I had it. And I there was a, when I turned 50, it was so clear to me that it was all downhill.
Mm,
I thought that to myself. Well, that's it. And it's just not going to get better after this. I really truly believe that. And I think that's just the result of ageism,
yeah.
right? And so a lot of times when when people will comment to things around age, I will say, well, it's not your fault because we're all led to believe,
Mm-hmm.
the stereotypes around aging. And I think it's really hard to sometimes see beyond that. It's just such an interesting thing because one, we're all going to experience it if you're lucky enough to get older.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's going to experience it. But at the same time, we're perpetuating it. Right. So it's so
In fact,
interesting. Like they're
older
both
people
happening at the
can be
same
the
time.
worst about
Yeah.
ageism. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, an older person, talking about maybe going to uh, a home and they want to stay and age in place in their
Hmm.
home, let's say. And very often what I hear is those people are so old.
Mm,
Those people in that home, they're so old, and it's like old is a four-letter word,
yeah.
and it is. It's just something that we've been indoctrinated into that idea. I think my over the hill marker was earlier than yours. I think I started telling myself it was all downhill in my 40s. It was when I started looking.
That's not a surprise though.
Yeah, yeah, looking in the mirror and going, excuse me, who is that?
Yeah.
That's not me. Who is that old lady, An old lady, and
Yeah.
just you talked about like the frozen shoulder, the bursitis, and just like the little things, right? Back problems and all the little things were happening. And I was like, well, okay, this is it. This is the beginning of the end. My bot, it's
Yeah.
all starting to go downhill.
Well,
And
listen, that stuff is no fun,
it is
right?
no
And
fun.
and there are things that are changing physically because of our age. I mean, that is really happening. And I think the idea around women and aging and the beauty industry and beauty culture and all of that, that gets it's so layered and it's so complicated and it's so nuanced. And yeah, when you look at yourself in the mirror and suddenly things are changing, I understand like the reaction is, well, I need to do something about that. I need to fix it, right? So we've been sort of taught to believe that we need to be fixed all the time. And
Yeah.
so I just think that, there's just so much to be said around all of that too. And, I get into the weeds a little bit in some of these accounts and trying to see and, what women are saying, because it's mainly women, and what they're saying about beauty culture and how it's affecting them as they get older. And there's all different camps, there are so many people who are willing to just go out there and do anything that they can to sort of deny the aging process. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the people who are saying, this is this is outrageous. How can you be doing this? How can you be putting things into your body and all of that? This is a natural process, obviously, but we're not treating it as such. And so there's just sort of this whole spectrum of how women are feeling. And I think to each her own, because I do feel like everyone is somewhere on that spectrum, whether you're, coloring your hair or wearing makeup, and whether you're going as far as you want to go. And I don't know, I think the part of it I that I have some discomfort with is like women judging other women. That's the part I think we don't need
Yes.
at all. Um,
That is really a
yeah,
huge, huge part of the problem is women judging other women. And I like to think it's getting better. Um, but I think we still have a long way to go. Like it's the whole idea
yeah.
of like I think people are starting to become aware of ageism, but I think there's still like I really don't think that some people even it's not a conversation in their head. It's just that it's an unconscious conversation in their
Yeah.
head. It's gotten to the point where I can't really be in a conversation with somebody without hearing somebody say something derogatory about getting older or aging sucks or, oh, this is happening. I'm getting old that, or it is incredible how steeped we are in the language of it. And it's
Right.
nobody's fault. It's just been handed down and handed down and handed down. I do
Yeah.
think that there's some power to be had over it once we are aware of it.
Oh,
That
yeah.
and if we can get curious about what could be different,
Well, I
rather
think
than judgy.
yes, but I think the awareness happens when you're suddenly in it, right? So as you get older and you become more and more invisible,
Yeah.
and then it sort of occurs to you that this is happening. But then you also have the self-directed ageism, I can't because of my age, or, I can't wear this, I can't try that, I can't learn this, I can't go there because of my age. Um, that is so common. And I get a lot of, comments and messages around that. And my response to that would be, well, don't let age be the default. Really question it. If you really can't do something, question why that's the case. So here's an example. When I was 50, I took a class to go on a trapeze. And so it was the first time I had ever done it. You go up this really high ladder and you're all strapped in, there's all the safety belt and everything, and you go up this high ladder. And so I wasn't thinking, oh, can I do that because I'm 50? That doesn't make sense to me. My question was, well, can I get up that ladder without being scared out of my mind?
Uh-huh.
Do I have the arm strength to hang on the bar and swing? Do I
Mm-hmm.
have the flexibility to pull my legs up and over so that my knees are
Mm-hmm.
hanging on the bar?
Mm.
Can I let go of that bar and swing to the other end? And is that guy going to catch me when I let go and go off of my bar? So those are the questions to ask.
Right.
Not, oh, am I 50? Can I do it because I'm 50?
Right. And if the answer is no to any of those, then what can I do to get stronger, more
Yeah,
limber? Like, what can I do to improve my balance? Like, what can I do? What are the little things that we can do to get better in certain areas so that
right.
we've got more opportunity?
Right. Well, do I want to build up to be able to do that?
Yeah.
That's another question, whether or not you want to do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not for me. Or, I mean, but the age piece of it, and again, I'm not saying that age doesn't matter. It does. Our body does change.
Hmm.
Um, but we can do some things to counter some of those things. Like I said, as we were talking about strength training a little bit earlier, was like we know those things happen,
Hmm.
that we begin to lose lean muscle mass. So I'm going to counter that the best that I can. So I am intentionally going to try to get stronger.
Yeah.
And I hope others do the same. Because I've seen that in my family. I've seen someone who has no muscle strength, and it's devastating. And so, you know, I will do what I can to try to avoid that. Whether or not it works, it doesn't matter. I'm going to try to mitigate my risk as much as possible. And, whatever happens in the future happens. I can't control that. But at
Yeah.
least I can control right now, putting in the work to try to decrease that risk.
Yes. I try to do squats as often as possible because I want to be able to get up and down from the toilet until I'm in my
100%.
90s.
Well, okay. So
You
I
know?
had heard a statistic that was like the main reason why someone would have to go into, have some kind of assistance,
Hmm.
is the bathroom.
Yeah.
So squats, I think squats are really important. You want to be able to sit in a chair and get up from a chair, and yes, sit on the toilet. And that's, I think that movement in particular is really important. Just the lower body strength is so important.
Yeah. Well, what I'm looking at the clock. I could talk to you all day, Mimi, but tell me, what is there anything coming up that you're excited about or anything at all?
Um, well, there's a couple of things they're not like firm, so I can't really say. My blog has been a little dormant for a while. I stopped writing. One, I was focusing on Instagram, and two, writing is just really hard.
Mhm.
So
I'm with
I'm
you.
going to I'm going to restart. I'm going to restart that. I've sort of neglected my blog, and I'm probably going to move over to Substack. So I'm working on that right now. So that's probably one of the sort of major things that I'm doing.
That's a big endeavor. So that's a lot of
Yeah,
moving things around and figuring out all the
yeah,
new processes and all that. So I wish
yeah.
you lots of luck with that. And
Thank you.
I'll have to watch out and make sure I get on your Substack,
Yeah.
subscribe to that. So I will be watching you and getting inspired by you and everything else. You actually make me, I am not a dancer, but you make me want to go take a shuffle class because I saw that you were doing that recently and you're just so cute doing your
Well,
shuffle, you know? I was like,
what I
look at
say
him
about
go.
dancing is just find if it's something you want to do, because a lot of people will say to me, well, I'm uncoordinated or I'm this or that. And whether or not you take a class or dance with other people or not, you can just figure out your way to do it. Like if you did an online class, you can just keep your camera off. Nobody has to see you if that's
Right.
something you want to do. If
Yeah,
you
I just
just
want to
want to
dance in
dance,
my house. That's all.
well,
You
I
know what I
think,
mean? I
go in
mean,
the
I do
room.
anyway. I look a little like Lucille Ball
It
when I
doesn't
do it, but I
matter.
don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I say turn the music up, shut the door, and dance by yourself if need be, But
Yeah.
there's always some way to do what you want to do. I hope. I really hope, because uh, another lesson is just being flexible and adapt to what you want to do, because you may not necessarily be able to do it the way you used to, but I don't think that should be the goal.
Mm,
We're all different, right? So if you are pretty sedentary and you start doing something, you know, you may see benefits right away. But if you were an athlete when you were younger and you have a lot of miles on your legs and you've got injuries or something like that, experience is going to be very different too.
yeah.
So everyone's different. You just have to find what's right for you. And that's why I do like talking about trial and error, because that's all I'm trying to do here as I get older, is through trial and error, trying to figure out well, what's going to work for me? What kind of movement's going to work for me? How do I want to feel right now? How do I want to feel in the future? What can I do right now to try to achieve that? Whether or not it happens, we don't know what's going to be the case. But why not make the choice now to put in place what, makes sense to try to get to your goal?
Yes, I always say that midlife is a huge opportunity because we can actually affect a lot of things that might come down the pike in our future by taking little actions now, you know.
Yeah.
This is like a moment in time where it can be a pivot point, and I would say
Yeah.
it's never too late, really. I mean, there's plenty of examples of people who have started doing things even beyond midlife and have affected change.
There's studies of um, people, I think, as old as in their 90s. I think it might have been 70s to 90s of people doing resistance and strength training and getting, stronger
Yeah,
at that age, which is really amazing.
it is. It's hopeful, isn't it?
Well, it's showing you what's possible. It's showing you what's possible. So, stay as strong as you can. Stay as strong as possible, I would say.
Well, thank you for showing us all what's possible. I just want to say that to you. And thank you for being here today with us. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Well, there you have it. I guess the real message of this episode is use it or lose it. Right? Okay, so a little confession here. Confession time. I realized this weekend, completely independent of this particular podcast episode, by the way. I had an aha moment this weekend. I looked in the mirror. I saw my arms. I was wearing a sleeveless shirt, and let's face it, it's been winter, and I haven't seen my arms in a while. So I looked in the mirror and saw that whatever muscle tone I had before is looking pretty negligent these days, and I had COVID a couple of weeks ago or whatever, and it's been, it wasn't horrible, but, I've been low energy and not working out so much, I'm not a huge workout person, by the way. I do yoga, I walk, I roller skate for fun. I do try to move my body every day. I stretch and I do all those things. But here's the thing. I have been telling myself for a long time now, for at least a year probably, that I want to start doing more weight training. I want to start building more muscle mass because we lose it as we get older, and I know that. I'm seeing it everywhere. I know. And I get started and then I fall off, and lately I've fallen off. That's the truth of it. I had bursitis about 8 years ago in my shoulder where I couldn't lift my arm up and put my bra on or put a shirt over my head. And the doctor and the PT that I went to at the time, they leveled with me and said, listen, this is partly genetic, but it's also something that you have some control over and if you continue to do some push-ups and the exercises the PT taught me and all the things, you can, maybe delay a possible shoulder surgery at some point in your life. And so I thought, okay. So I actually have been pretty good about keeping my shoulders moving and flexible, but I have fallen off on the push-ups lately, the strength training part of it. This is all very long to tell you that I have started a 30-day challenge for myself to do 11 minutes of high-intensity training every day, and some of that being weight training, even if it's like body weight that I'm doing, planks or something like that, because I'm starting small. My good friend Kat Corchado, my salty sister, she's the one who started Small Space Pilates and all that. She had told me recently that 11 minutes of high intensity training is enough to make a difference. And really, 11 minutes, can't we all do that? So that's my challenge to myself for the next 30 days. I hope you'll join me. I am posting about it, maybe not every day on Instagram, but I am going to be kind of keeping you updated. And if that helps you to remind you, follow me over on Instagram and see if you can get yourself moving too. It is never too late, my friend. It is never too late. It's not too late for me. It's not too late for you. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with that today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with me. And if you think this podcast has been helpful, please pass it on to somebody in some way, or head on over to Apple Podcasts and drop a review in there for me to help the podcast grow and reach other people. That would be fantastic. I really appreciate it. And in the meantime, stay safe and well, and talk soon.